Thanks again for checking out the Coding Fanatic YouTube channel. Head on over to codingfanatic.com and join our mailing list for weekly updates on Android tutorials, career advice, and more. So once again, head on over to codingfanatic.com and thanks for your support. Have you ever wondered how an app does something when you click on a button? Like you'll click on a button and it'll pop up something or show you some changes in the app? Well, in today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a clickable button in Android. So let's get started. Now over here, I already have a simple blank standard app, and I'm going to walk you through step by step what changes need to be made. All right, so go ahead and start up your IDE and your Android virtual device, and let's get to work. So I'm going to make a change to the layout here. I like to use linear layouts at least for this project. I believe a linear layout is best. Delete, back, boom, forward slash. Cool. All right, so we've got a linear layout set up. We're going to add a couple of attributes to this layout. So those will be our gravity and our orientation. So if we go to Android gravity equals center and Android orientation set to vertical. Okay, this will make sure that our components line up vertically and stay in the center, just like how our hello world is in the center. All right, and we're going to remove all this extra text here, or these attributes from our text view. Right now, for the purpose of this project, I'm going to add a few extra text views, but we're only going to use a couple of them. Just follow along for now, and I'll explain the changes as we go through this app. All right, so we can add 3 of them. Why not? Okay, so we're gonna remove the text from this one in the middle, just leaving it blank, and we're going to leave these two as they are. All right, so next we're gonna set the weight for this text view in the middle as Android layout weight equals 1. All right, and we're gonna sandwich our text views containing text between these blank weighted text views. Okay, so the reason I'm doing this is when the views render, I want to have 2 buttons and then have a decent amount of spacing between them. So these are really just for blank space. All right, now for our 2 text views that say hello world, we're going to change these to what we talked about. We're going to change them to buttons. Okay, so now we'll have 2 buttons that have a good amount of space between them. All right, and let's change the text of these buttons too while we're at it. So we're going to change this to say click, or let's just make it say change to red, and here change to blue. Yeah, let's make these caps. Great. All right. Now, before we move forward, let's take a second and see how this will render in our emulator. Now we have our 2 buttons, change to red and change to blue. Of course, neither of them do anything yet. So let's make 1 or 2 more changes in our layout, and then we'll jump into how to set these buttons up to change the backgrounds. The last thing I'm going to do is change our ID of our layout. So we're going to say Android ID equals ID, and let's call it my layout. And we're going to set an ID on our button to say Android ID we'll call it red button. And we can paste that and we'll make it say, oh, whoopsie daisy, ID. I missed a step. ID /. Cool. So now we've got our ID set. For the layout, it's my layout. First button we'll say red button, and our last one we'll call blue button. All right, so now that all our IDs are set, we can access these from our main activity.java. So let's head over there and make our next set of changes. Okay, for the next part, we're going to import a few classes into our application here, and 4 to be exact. We're going to import the button, color, linear layout, and view class. So I'm going to go ahead and add those in right now. Okay, so the button class we'll use to interface with our buttons. The color class we'll use to set the color of our background. Linear layout we'll use to interact with our layout. And view we'll use to obtain the view and make our changes. All right, I'm just going to take a second and put these in order. Okay. Next, we're going to set up our button objects as well as our layout object. And like I said before, this will allow us to interface with our layout. So let's have a button called, we'll say button red and button blue. And let's add our linear layouts. We'll call it layout. Right? Now in our onCreate method, this is where we're going to configure them to interact with our users. So we've got button red equals view or find view by ID. All right, and what I like to do is just cut and paste 1, 2, 3. All right, so we've got button red and find view by ID, and our ID for button red, if you remember, is red button. So we go back to main activity.java and say button red equals find view by ID, R for resource dot ID dot button red. Right? We do the same thing for not button red but button blue. Find view by ID, and we called it blue button. So we come back to our main activity.java and say r.id.blue button. I don't know why I said button red here. It's a little confusing. All right, red button, because the ID that we set here was red button, not button red. All right, so button red equals r.id.red button. Button blue equals r.id.blue button. And lastly, our layout. Our layout will be equal to find view by ID, and we named our linear layout my layout. So we come back to our Java file, say r.id.myLayout. Okay, so now all our buttons and our layout object are set up. Our final step will be to set up our listeners so that when we click the button, a change will occur. So I'm going to say button red dot set on click listener new view dot on click listener. Since it's a method, we include our parentheses. All right, open up a bracket here. We're going to override the onClick method. Oh, and include a parentheses here. Public void onClick, and include our argument UV. All right, so now all this is going to do, all we're doing is setting up what will happen when we click on button red, which is our first button right here, right? So we're going to say layout.set background color, and we're going to say color dot red. Okay, and we will do the exact same thing again for our blue button. All right, so button blue dot set onClickListener new view dot onClickListener curly brace, and we override the public void onClick method. We have our argument view v and curly brace layout dot set background color dot blue. So now when we click on button blue, the background should change to blue. But enough talking, let's see this in action. All right, so now we have our application, and when we click on change to red, the background changes red, and when we click on change to blue, the background changes to blue. So that's it for creating clickable buttons. But I named this application Clicking Views, and I did that for a reason. In our next video, I'm going to explain why it's not only buttons that you can use, that you can click on to make changes within your application. So once again, thank you all so much for checking out our video. If you like this content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you can see when I upload new videos each week. And join the mailing list on codingfanatic.com so you get updates on Android tutorials like these, as well as career advice and so much more. So once again, this is your host, Richard Clark, signing out, and I'll see you all on the next one. Peace.